Welcome to the Going Green podcast. In the week where we've heard the devastating news of the death of Queen Elizabeth II, we thought we'd sort of reflect a little bit today on royalty, the royal family, and their legacy that they've done on climate change. We've got Prince Charles, now King Charles III. He was very well known for all his views on climate change. And in fact, he was doing this many years before it was basically popular to do so. He was out there beating the drum about the climate and the environment. But in fact, it wasn't just King Charles III that was doing this. In fact, the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth II, she was making great changes to her estates and, I suppose, the country. And in recent years, we've seen her involved in that Canopy for the Jubilee and lots of other things basically before that. She's always been known as a great sort of person for, well, frugality, isn't it? She's been very careful on what she's used. She's always used honey from the estates.
One of the things that is quite well known about her is the fact that sort of due to the fact that she was a post-war, I say a post-war baby, but she was a post-wartime generation. Of course, they were still living with all the rationing things. When the late Queen went to her coronation, you're saying things like sugar, sugar, milk, and butter were all still being rationed, you see, because of course still wasn't enough of it. And so she's lived that way for pretty much most of her life. She hasn't been, as they say, although she's have access to all these lovely private chefs, have been known for eating a very simple diet, eating local produce and sort of, she liked to use things like reusing wrapping paper for Christmas and sort of, and
Sounds like my gran.
exactly, yeah, very much sort of, yeah. But it was that sort of generation, so she was very frugal to begin with in relation to what she was, and one of the major things you say is, of course, she's got enough air miles to travel the globe 42 times over. This is go right round the globe 42 times over.
So, yeah, but she did an awful lot of traveling, but in that traveling, she also did one awful lot of good. And a lot of the time, it wasn't necessarily just air miles, but actually she used other forms of transport like Royal Yacht Britannia for many, many years. So, yeah, you can argue, yes, she did an awful lot of traveling, but you've actually got to look about the amount of good that actually brought about.
Yes. Well, one of the major things, of course, she says is that her, the traveling she does was for work, and when she was not working, so essentially when she was off royal duties, of course, she was quite happily going to do the apparently walking, and early in her youth, she was doing quite a lot of cycling,
And of course, riding.
and a lot of horse riding, those sorts of things. And it's one of those very interesting things to say. Sort of all this is the fact that sort of, do you sort of put her down for the fact that she had a large carbon footprint, but at the same time, to get if she wanted to go somewhere, it would take weeks as opposed to I say days, hours with a plane. You see, and this is the problem of sort of like, you're going to have the modern necessity of aircraft because, of course, it allows for the globalization of the world. But now you're sort of saying, well, how do we, as a global population, we ask the question of sort of, how do we reduce, the emissions from aircraft? And the answer is no one knows, because it is quite a big thing. Could you power them by electric? Well, unfortunately, electricity doesn't go that far in relation to weight versus power. It's a challenge. But you see, one of her major things, of course, is sort of she was quite happy and doing all these things. Wherever she went, usually for a royal tour. This is when she went to a country to, not inspect them. That's the wrong way to put it, but just have a see the sights.
Royal tours, they are. Yeah.
You know, she would always plant a ceremonial tree. I say a ceremonial tree. She'll always plant a tree celebrating this royal tour of that year. And, let's say she visits some country, saying one of them 40 times, that's 40 trees she planted. Now,
and being a monarch for 70 years, some of those trees are now sort of quite old. She planted but there were a lot planted for her silver jubilee, and those trees are now 50 years old. And, they are really quite mature trees. Yeah, so she did that. But I know that the Queen had and liked a very simple diet. She was very keen on using local produce, as we've seen on all the media. She liked using when she had meat, she liked it to be local, with sort of low food miles on it, so to speak.
yes. And so you sort of say, was there a problem of it? Is this the fact of all the climate change her passing legacy? And the answer is she's got, quite a lot of legacy to go for. But it is one of those odd things where, not that I wouldn't say she's been championing the environment. That's the wrong way to put it. But, she actually cared for it. You look at all of the Balmorals, basically all the royal estates, they were well looked after in regards to a lot of, I say policies. She was very keen gardener. She was very keen in her, I say, estates. She was well looked after. She looked after them. She didn't sort of, but at the same time, she also sort of she liked the wildflowers.
Yeah.
And it's silly things like that. She didn't care for.
Well, she did like the natural world, and we've seen that. She even teamed up with Sir David Attenborough in 2018, doing this documentary, The Queen's Green Planet, and they walked around the Buckingham Palace, didn't they? And that's where she discovered the amusing thing about the sundial that was possibly now planted in the shade, and talking to a gardener, thinking, well, did we really do this? Should we have actually have put it somewhere else? She had a great love of animals as well. She was a great sort of dog lover, as we know, with all the corgis.
Yes.
And she was a very accomplished horse rider.
Yes, and she knew, but of course, she's also got quite a lot of on. I say her farmland. That's the wrong way to put it. She raised lots of cattle. I don't know about sheep, but that's just one of those odd things where it was, I think, just the land she had cattle on it, as opposed to anything else. It's just one of those minor points, that sort of. But you'd say other things in relation to sheep and things. Of course, she used to rewear lots of clothes. Now that's one of the new thing currently going through is is doing the second hand or sort of hand me downs, and it was one of those things where she wasn't afraid to, because it's sort of like there was a lot of life in it still. It's like I say furniture. She was very aware of just using old furniture. She wasn't very.
They're called antiques now. Yes, this is the idea.
And so, as you can see, as you can see, one of the things is it is the way, not that she cared about things, but it's just how things changed over the decades that she reigned for. To say that sort of, she bought, she was still using the furniture from when, all right, it was well crafted furniture to begin with. We weren't talking, it wasn't cheap to begin with. But of course, that's the purpose. You don't, if you want cheap and cheerful, it doesn't last long. But if you want, go for expensive, it lasts much longer.
And that's more economical in the long run. Yeah.
Exactly.
So famous really for many things, for her love of horses, her corgis, the Balmoral estate, and all the stories we've heard from politicians of her driving them round the Balmoral estate, and how they sort of, she and the Duke of Edinburgh, restored various parts of that.
I wouldn't say parts. It was just sort of just, you know, any damage that was done. Yeah, it was, they looked after it and sort of, you know, but it was sort of, they did look around, not just their estate, but so the surrounding estate. I know there was a blight in one of the fields, round in Balmoral, and so she told her, the Balmoral estate, obviously, to basically take some of the, I wouldn't say seedlings, that's the wrong way to put it, but, you know, take some of you know, from the grounds of the soil from the ground and actually plonk it into this neighboring field to actually, so it can help recover. I know that story as a yeah, one of the big things in relation to, she was very neighborly, if that makes any sense.
Well, I don't know of this because I was too young, but my mother told me the stories of when the Queen took the throne. There was, in fact, an enormous amount of climate stress on the UK. It was the December 1952, the great smog that was enveloping London. And of course, the Queen was living in London. And this was the first major piece of environmental legislation that came out through various things that she did and she said. We had this thick blanket of pollution hanging over the city, and basically this was sort of, well, it was the worst air pollution event in UK history. And between 10,000 and 12,000 people died because of this.
Yeah,
And in fact, the story is that the London ambulance service didn't actually run because they couldn't actually see to drive the ambulances round.
yeah,
And all of those things started bringing in things like the Clean Air Act, which of course had to receive royal assent. And that was aimed to try and reduce all this sort of pollution. So that's where she started with that, with the wartime frugality, and all this sort of pollution. And over the next sort of, well, 60 years then, but 60, 70 years, we have seen smog virtually removed from our major cities.
yeah,
We have seen, however, the rise of air travel, and that's changed in her sort of lifetime.
yes.
But we've got sort of this idea that, well, the
Well,
Queen didn't really sort of jet off air miles going on holiday. When she went, she always went for work reasons, as you said.
yeah, and it's one of those things where, yeah, moving through with all this is sort of, you know, with all the luxury things of, you know, she was always commented that she was always bringing Tupperware with her. You know, anywhere she were, you know, to a meeting, she'll always have a lunch in a Tupperware bag, a Tupperware bag, yeah, Tupperware box, or it would be all in sort of not you know, a brown paper bag. You know, her lunches, of course. Yeah, and that was one of the major things. Of course, she said she rarely used any, um, let's say, plastic bags in her life. Really, it was just moving through that, sort of saying, yeah, that's what they were. You know, she wasn't a fan of plastic to begin with. Now, admittedly, earlier on, plastics, they were having something known as booper, which is why you hear loads of things now saying booper free, booper clean, booper free, and it's sort of, it was also this major thing about it. But of course, you know, she wasn't doing that because she was still using the brown paper bags that
Yeah.
she'd grown up during the wartime. You know, and as I said, you know, this is the huge part of all of this was, you know, that, it was one of those odd things that she didn't use plastic. It's one of those things where, unlike everybody else who was in the world where plastics were on the rise, he said, she wasn't using them. And, obviously then came to place so that we found out that plastic is now banned. And suddenly sort of, oh, look, a part of her legacy is that she didn't use it. But the major reason she didn't use it is because she was using brown paper bags instead.
Yeah.
Now people really moan at sort of saying your brown plastic bags are bad. But it's sort of like, well, they weren't really. They were just plastic was more convenient and cheaper to make. But now it's more seen as sort of, well, it's the better way to go anyway. It's one of those things where, you can't say that she developed policy and made groundbreaking work on this.
Because she doesn't and didn't do that. That wasn't her job to do that. She stayed in the background and just tried to sort of
But one of the major things,
generally influence people.
yeah, but one of the major things, of course, yes, she influenced things. You can talk about when she went and did the COP26 in Glasgow. She expressed her, how would they put it? In not indifference. How she didn't really like how we climbed in the action. There you go. She didn't like the inaction around the climate that was happening. Because of course, what she was saying was she's seen it all.
Yeah.
And she's been there for the last 70 years, and she could see things happening, and she could see things getting better at the time. When you're having that, I say longevity, she was having that long say sort of, when she grew up,
Things were different.
Things were different. And are they any better? And the answer was no, they weren't. And so she was very, I wouldn't say interested, but she was very eager for.
I would have said interested, yes, and eager to get things changed. Let's move on and ask about the Queen's carbon footprint. Very high was the footprint of the royal family, basically because they were travelling around the world. But if you think that the royal family had a combined carbon footprint in the region of the thousands, whereas the rest of us were in the region of tens, then there's quite a difference. But basically, by the end of her sort of reign, she was quite a lot lower in her carbon footprint. And some of that is because of all these sort of royal residences. They make use of renewable energy. They use biomass boilers. They use heat pumps. They use solar panels. And that's all really what all of us ought to be doing. And considering the number of trees the Queen personally put up, that certainly did cover, I imagine, a lot of her
Yes,
carbon neutrality, so to speak.
yes, and it's one of those odd things where you sort of say, you look at the family, and the answer is that the family did only they weren't massive, but of course it depends on what their duties and what they were doing. But it could range between approximately sort of 50 tons to sort of maybe sort of 500 tons of CO2 emissions. But and the Queen was very low down in that list, towards the very bottom end of that. And in the later years, when she wasn't going anywhere, she was sending everybody else
Even less.
because obviously she wasn't going anywhere. Admittedly because of her age, and we're not granting that one. But it was sort of the odd point where they did try desperately to sort of, yes, they flew somewhere, but they flew to, just one flight took them. They weren't sort of bouncing all over the place. They flew once, and then they were taking, train, mass transit. How did the train go to Balmoral all the time? You should just take the train. But it wasn't that she used to just take the train. It wasn't a special train. No, she just used to take the first class train up, I say up to Edinburgh. And that's where she travelled. You see, it wasn't sort of any special. She wasn't sort of on her own, sort of as a.
Yeah, and the train was going there anyway, basically.
Yeah.
So it was a normal train. So it was quite good. Yeah. So I think she did really well on that. In one respect, though, I've been disappointed and yet cheered up. When the Queen died, you've seen loads of people bring the flowers, and it's a lovely floral tribute to the Queen. And these are gathered up, and a lot of them are taken to Green Park. And I was very impressed to see all these eco warriors out there taking all these flowers, removing all the plastic and all the other bits and pieces, and I understand a few marmalade sandwiches, and basically getting rid of and collecting all that plastic so that it could be recycled. And in fact, the flowers will also be, when they finished, be recycled into the sort of the Royal Gardens.
Yes, they're reporting that the sort of all these flower tributes all over the we're talking
all over the world,
over the world, and all of the states. They said one of the Queen's wishes was for these floral tributes that the flowers be put, basically sort of not used for the biomass heaters, but to actually be planted into the flower beds and compost into the flower beds to revigor the soil, because that's sort of one of the major points that she wanted, and it was sort of as one of her wishes, and it was a well-known wish, which is of course why people were doing it, and it's absolutely fabulous to see people getting involved and sort of doing so. Can you compost a marmalade sandwich? Well, the answer is yes, so it's no problem. So it's just one of those things. And now, in regards to looking at all this, is sort of looking at King Charles's legacy, or I say
the
legacy,
future, yes,
but it's more towards looking towards the future.
Well, maybe Queen Elizabeth II will be called Elizabeth the Great. And when I heard Boris Johnson's speech in the House of Parliament and him calling her Elizabeth the Great, I really did think that actually that did fit. But maybe King Charles III will be King Charles III, the environmentalist. He's been campaigning on green issues basically all his life.
Yeah, I was going to say, not from the last... It's one of those dumb things where you say, is it for the last 50 years? And the answer is,
yeah.
I think it's just basically because, of course, he was grown up doing all these environmental issues, you see, and then sort of he just naturally just took it all on. And, of course, he was a great pundit of speaking about environmentalism well before it was real, or I say it was real, that's the wrong way to put it, but it was just one of those things where most people, they didn't see it, and only suddenly in the last decade or so, or the last in the new millennium, they've changed. But he was much more active
a lot longer than that, and he was writing to politicians and saying do this, that and the other, which is sort of not really the right thing for the royalty to do. But it's been good.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those odd things where people are talking about his friends say, will he rein himself back from intervention into climate? And the honest answer is the closest people say to him probably won't. There is a difference between writing against his local environment secretary saying you could do this, this, and this, which is what he used to do. But of course, as heir, he was allowed to. Now, as monarch, he's got a bit more apolitical. But the thing is,
but there's a secret in that one, because there's now a new Prince of Wales, and Charles's legacy of what he's done has passed down to our new Prince of Wales, who is also a very strong environmentalist.
Yes, so
Prince William is sort of really leading the charge, as we've talked about in this podcast in other episodes about what he's been up to.
Yes, and it's one of those things where we know what Charles would be like, because, well, he's been like it for the last 50 years. Is he going to suddenly change? And the honest answer is probably not. Now, that's not a big
and that's
thing.
A good thing.
But yeah, it's a good thing. You think, he's been putting lots of trees down. How many more trees is he going to put down? How many trees, memorial trees he's going to place down versus how many celebratory trees. It's all these sorts of things he's going to put down.
Well, he grows, but there is an awful lot around Clarence House of organic fruit, organic vegetables. They've got all the flowers growing there. But he's also been doing quite a lot on, well, because he had the Duchy of Cornwall and the estates there. His farms down there have been very green, organic since sort of, well, before anyone else went organic.
Yes, and people might be moaning and saying sort of, oh, well, he could afford it. And the answer is, it's not quite the way you think. It's just one of those things where moving through, it's like when Charles at one of the COPs, he unveiled this terracotta, like the Magna Carta, but obviously for the planet, and a coalition of willingness to rapidly accelerate transition to a sustainable future. He's he's done all these things. He's pushing these things. And the answer is yes. His influence has slightly changed a bit, as in he's now, instead of being sort of the air where he's looking forward to the future, he's the future. But of course, his Carter pledges, it's still a thing, a business can do so. And
well, I like some of the things that King Charles III is patron of, surfers against sewage, which is very topical, I suppose, at the moment with it all going out there. And the family, Prince Philip was president of the World Wildlife Fund, and then it became King Charles. No,
I know he was founder of the wildlife things, but I don't know in relation to.
Yeah, so I won't go on that one because I'm not sure of my facts on that, but he was really involved in some of that. And one of the things I liked is because Prince Charles has got one of my favourite cars. He's got an Aston Martin, and it's about the same age as the Aston Martin that I once drove, and it's a lovely car, and his car isn't sort of quite as bad as all the others, because generally Aston Martins have not miles per gallon, but gallons per mile. They're sort of famous for that sort of thing. But his runs on bioethanol and a little bit of unleaded petrol. It's sort of, yay, good stuff. So, yeah, I like that. If you're going to have a super sports car, then, well, let's at least have it running on sort of something that's intelligent.
Yes. Well, it's one of those odd things where you look at sort of his beliefs and things. It's like he doesn't believe I wouldn't say believes necessarily. He doesn't like wind turbines, and that's the critical problem. Of sort of, he doesn't like the look of them because, of course, not in my backyard. He's very critical about that. But of course, instead of saying I don't want any wind turbines, he said, no, I don't want wind turbines. No, I'm going to go for a biomass turbine or sort of that sort of thing. So it's sort of
water wheels, wave power, all sorts of other things.
All sorts of other things. He's happy. He just doesn't want in the farmland wind turbine, and that's fine. That's that's acceptable sort of point across. But he's saying, but unlike sort of, is he willing to do anything else? The answer is yes. He was or is willing for all other alternatives in relation to trying to prevent wind turbines being put up in farmland on the land. And so it's one of those odd things you look at, sort of say, well, is that such a bad thing that, he's done this? And the major point about all this, of course, is it's not.
Well, the Queen, I think, started this off. The baton was passed on to Prince Charles, now King Charles III, and he's going to carry on. But he's already passed that baton on to his son, Prince William, the new Prince of Wales, who will also carry on this commitment to the environment, and we can only hope that it continues. You've been listening and watching the Going Green podcast. Thank you for listening. About the royal family, our deepest sympathies are with the royal family at this time, at the time of the death of our Queen Elizabeth II. And we look forward to a much brighter future under our new monarch. So, all I can finish off with this one is saying, God save the King.
Yes. Hear, hear.
It's goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.